So, Terry, you published an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal 1 month after you retired from BlackRock, entitled, ESG Neither Does Very Well Nor Much Good. It was read 4.2 million times and cemented your role as ESG's most prominent critic. Has ESG been fixed yet?
Is this on?
This one's on.
This one? The one under my butt? ESG has not been fixed because it is fatally flawed, Michael. ESG will not work. ESG promised to make the world a better place, and it promised to generate extraordinary returns. It's done neither. There was a green guy up on the stage here a couple of talks ago. His name is Brock Pierce. Is Brock still in the room? Brock has escaped. Brock said that everything we do, all of our investments, should be about making the world a better place. It won't be ESG. I'll talk about that more later.
I look forward to learning about how to do that much better. So, Jen, you broke a significant barrier in Homeland Security. Firstly, what was it like being the only female and youngest in the room 20 years ago at tables with generals, ambassadors, and heads of the CIA as your close colleagues?
Wow, great question. It was fun. Before that, in my 20s, I was a famous fashion designer, and it was all women. And now I went into Homeland Security, and it was all men. And I found that once I got to know them, because in social world in New York City, you kiss people on both cheeks. So they were my friends, and they were used to kissing me on both cheeks. So when I would come into a boardroom, and I was usually a little bit late, then sea of men, and 3 or 4 of them would jump up and all say, Jen, and kiss me on both cheeks. And I could hear any other men in the world, I could hear any other men in the room going, who is that girl? Who is she? They're all whispering. So, and I was always aware that my future husband could be in any room at any time. So I wore really pretty dresses, and I dressed like a female. And I think that only once in my 10 years of Homeland Security at the top of the Homeland Security world, I saw one woman, and she was a general, and she was wearing male clothes, and she was a very, very big, heavy-set general. And I realized that most women in that world couldn't be female. They had to dress like men, they had to sound like men, and I was feminine, and I used my femininity. I loved being a girl, and so thank you. And so that I stuck out like crazy, and it was almost unbelievable. And I'll remember one group, which is quite funny. I'm there with some big investors, and 3 of them, and they're all speaking to me, and one guy, older guy, said, I don't understand. He said, you're beautiful. You could be on any yacht with getting your nails done and having some other person give you a back massage. What are you doing here? He's like, what are you doing here? And I said, and I looked up, and the younger version of me said very confidently, sir, I want to buy my own yacht. I want to make my own money, and I want to have my own cute boys giving me those back massages and doing my nails. And he looked at me in a way that I will never forget, like just sheer, couldn't even believe it. The other 2 men kind of smiled and said, wow, good for you. But I was the only woman there fighting the war, and let me tell you, it's a war fighting with all men. It's not easy, but I had some really strong, powerful men beside me that were my partners and my co-founders, and they protected me in some cases when I had to deal with the really difficult men. They'd step right in and take on that challenge for me.
And the technology that Jen's company developed was just incredible. It was the only technology that could detect a nuclear weapon entering a port, and she's also an expert in how to mitigate the risk of electromagnetic pulse as well. And that's just one of half a dozen different businesses that she helped to found. David, tell us about how can a generalist investor outperform an industry sector specialist?
Great. Well, thanks for that question, which I suggested. Actually, thinking about it, the best investors in the world have been generalists. Buffett, Peter Lynch, this guy next to me, and I'm not only saying that because he's sitting next to me. Actually, he's my latest investment. They've all been generalists, which is interesting because sector specialists will know more than generalists about any particular investment. But investing is not just about knowing the ins and outs of an industry, it's also about valuation. And I think that really shows you the difference between being an industry expert and being an investor. It's really all about valuation.
Oh, thank you, David. That does seem to resonate, that some of the best investors have indeed been generalists. When you think about all the top performing hedge funds, it's a very, very interesting point that it's unless someone says it, you don't really think about it. So we have another amazing investor with us, and I think I mentioned Bruce's returns for last year were, I think he produced almost a triple last year on his fund. So Bruce, you're a very well-known value investor on Wall Street. Your track record is exceptional. How do you generate such extreme returns when value has been so out of favor for the last 15 years compared to large cap growth stocks?
Well, hello? You're very right about value being out of favor, but in the prior 85 years, value has crushed every investment there was. Value has always persevered. And some of the greatest investors of all time, Warren Buffett, Graham and Dodd, they're value investors. But in the last 15 years, Wall Street's changed. It's basically all programs. It's all algorithms, derivatives, programs, ETFs, index funds, momentum funds. So everything today is really run by momentum. Momentum, momentum, momentum. So as things go up, they continue to go up. And if they continue to go up, buyers come in, and things get overvalued on the way up, like Palantir and Tesla. But if you don't go up, you go down, and the shorts come in, and the shorts come in. So these programs don't have a mind. It's all based on price momentum. So that tells me that Wall Street, how many people here are Wall Street guys, girls? Any Wall Street people here? Not many. But Wall Street is probably the dumbest industry on the planet. Why is it the dumbest industry? It's the only industry in the world where you buy high, buy higher, sell low, and short lower. So it creates irrationalities. It creates incredible overvaluedness, and on the downside, it creates incredible irrationality on the downside. Some stocks trade at 2 times earnings, half a cash, quarter of book value, and I'm saying, who's selling this stock at these valuations? Dumb programs. So what we do is we identify companies that are great companies that have horrible stock prices, and we identify catalysts or group of catalysts that's going to take something that's on the secular downtrend, that's down from 50 to 3, 80 to 4, that has real value, earning money, great companies, and we identify catalysts, or we create catalysts ourselves that creates a huge inflection point. And usually when that inflection point occurs, you get a monster short squeeze. So that's how we get the huge returns of 183% last year.
And what I remember is Jen told me, this was almost 2 years ago, December 2023. She said, I have this friend Bruce, and his favorite stock is Innodata. It's about $4 now. And Bruce, what is Innodata today?
Innodata is $58.
Unbelievable. Brian, you co-founded the second largest airline in Mexico, largest by number of ticket sales, right?
First
Largest.
Yeah, okay, largest. And And if I recall accurately, it's the largest by ticket sales, right? By number of seats. And how did you get into the aviation industry, and how did you select Mexico as the focus for your airline?
I had a background in Bain & Company, so multiple industries, and we saw in Mexico that to go on bus from Tijuana to Mexico City took 42 hours, cost $125, and there was no low-cost carrier airline. So we identified that there was an absolute market need there, and the question was, could we actually figure out how to start, build a company, an airline, and successfully operate it safely as well. And so we wound up gathering all the things that you would expect you'd need. You would want Mexican economic power, so we got Carlos Slim and Televisa to be along with us. We wanted Pedro Aspe, who was a former finance minister of Mexico, to be on our side to help us out in terms of the government. And then we wanted an airline, TACA Airlines, to help us out. They were headquartered in El Salvador. And so that plus $100 million got us started. And then really it's all execution after that so that now instead of 42 hours and $125 on Volaris, you can get there in under 4 hours for under $50, which is amazing. So it's market share wise in Mexico, Volaris is equal to Delta's market share plus United plus Alaska in the US, so it is the dominant carrier.
Amazing, amazing. I'm sure that's really helped Mexico's economy quite a bit to be able to get around much more easily.
Yeah, the Mexico's middle class was beginning to grow, and we figured that by starting this airline, we would help accelerate that growth and change people's lives. I mean, people can go see their relatives who otherwise wouldn't have been able to afford either the time or the money to go see them. They're able to go take business trips. They're able to take vacations that they otherwise wouldn't have been able to afford.
So we have a video produced by Terry, and it explains. Oh, I'm afraid to. Oh, sure, we can wait. I'm just afraid we only have about 8 minutes left. I want to make sure we don't miss it, but we can wait.
Is this on? Test. Microphone. Thank you.
Oh.
I apologize. I didn't realize we were allowed to give more than a 1-minute answer. I sounded a bit glib on ESG, so I want to clarify it. All of environmental, social, and governance investing, just like faith-based investing and socially responsible investing, is about divestment. It's what you don't want to own. Don't own oil and gas. Don't own sin stocks, alcohol, tobacco, gambling, firearms. Here's the problem, dear friends. We will not be able to divest our way to a greener world. We will not be able to divest our way to a more inclusive world. We will not be able to divest our way to a more sustainable and just world. We have to invest. And so the very most important thing that we can show the video on eventually is how do we do that? How do we identify the most important investments that are going to create the world that we all know we want to live in? And that's the video that will come later in this panel.
Okay. Feel free to give me the 1-minute warning. Okay. Jen, what's the single most understood macro risk? And by the way, Jen is also an excellent macroeconomist who predicted the 2008 financial crisis, but I think we learned that yesterday. What's the single most misunderstood macro risk that ultra-high net worth families and their offices need to urgently be addressing now, whether it's EMP, cyber, or economic?
Wow. Well, I just have to pick one. I will be speaking on macro. I'll be speaking on the macro picture of Homeland Security on the next panel, and I'll get into EMP.
I'll ask you another question then.
Okay.
Okay.
You were
Aside from your grandfather's and your father's incredible achievements, you're essentially a true Renaissance woman. What is your secret to performing at such a high level across so many different fields?
Well, it's a great question. I knew you were going to ask me that, so I made a few notes. And it's funny because I think that my answer is every entrepreneur who's ever been really passionate about anything, and I'll start by saying that they were really hard. And everybody, almost everybody told me, you'll never be able to do that. So, for instance, and I think that really riled me up. I'll start by saying that I had no mother. She left when I was 3. And so you're going to ask me the question about my grandparents or my family later, I think next. But so I had these role models of these 2 incredible men, my grandfather and my father, and they built institutions that were worldwide. And so I thought, well, if they can do it, I can do it. And the interesting thing was that they had very high IQs, but their EQs were not so great, which was most men in those days. But neither of them ever thought that I couldn't do anything. They never told me I couldn't. I didn't have a mother who taught me what a mother was supposed to be like. So I looked up to these men and I said, well, nobody's going to tell me that I can't do something because I can do whatever I want. Just look at my father and my grandfather. So I would say that it takes huge courage to stick with it, and I only chose things that I really loved and I really wanted to do, that I actually thought I had a chance of achieving. So you don't want to run off and try to achieve something. For instance, you have one of the most beautiful voices and have sung for many presidents. So you know you have a beautiful voice. It was obvious, so you knew that if you wanted to sing for the presidents, you could. But you have to be ready to work super hard. So I would say that I was very, very determined to work at everything that I was passionate about. And I would also say that I did this with empathy and courage, and I have an amazing team, so I lead with empathy. My assistants, who are all in the Far East, stay with me forever. They've been with me for years and years, and when I get a good one, they stay because they love me and I love them, and I want to help their lives. I have all sorts of help from Bangladesh and other countries, and I help their lives. So I would say finding the right team, being really focused. I said in every single thing I did, when people told me I couldn't do it, I said, okay, well, then I'm either going to do it or I'm going to die trying. And I would say that was my motto. I'm going to do it or I'm going to die trying, because that's what life's about, is reaching these incredible goals. And then the next one came, and the next one, I wanted to save the world, so I built a Homeland Security company. I helped for 10 years build a company that had, at the same time, you can't just have one company, you need a few, because one could die. Yep. So my second company had the cure for pancreatic cancer, and that's how I started.
Amazing to do that in so many different fields, from fashion design to all the rest. David, you predicted long before the first 5 companies to reach $1 trillion ever did. You actually put all 5 of them into your portfolio as your number 1 holding in your family's portfolio. How did you have that foresight?
I didn't know that question was coming. Think about, I guess in my investing, I sort of start with a big picture and think about the way the world is going. So my bar mitzvah was about the time that Cisco went public. And I thought, computers, networking is going to be very big. And so I put my bar mitzvah money into Cisco. Okay, is that better?
No, I think it needs to come here.
Okay, thanks.
There.
So I just said, anyway, yes. So I thought networking computers would be a big deal, and so then I looked at the companies, and I picked Cisco. What I think one of the big things now, if I guess anyone wants something that I think is actionable, is I think ultimately in the developed world businesses will have to be carbon neutral. So I think carbon sequestration is a very big deal, and I have a couple of investments in that space. I think all industrial companies will make companies, all industrial countries will make their companies carbon neutral. And so that's one of the big things that I think will happen in the next 20, 30 years.
Thank you. Well, I'm going to ask if we can have an extra 3 minutes, just because I want to make sure I get to the last 2 questions.
Michael, they'll give you 5 more.
Oh, okay, great. Okay. All right. So Bruce, you're an activist, but you claim that you're actually a friendly activist. And how does that work?
That's very interesting. Can you hear me? So activism is usually hostile. You don't agree with the company. You want to change the board. You want to change the management. So what we do is, as I mentioned earlier, we invest in these companies that have been algorithmed and programmed to death that are trading at fractions of their intrinsic values. And in many cases, the management of these companies are perplexed why their stock is so cheap. They say, our stock is worth 12 bucks. Our stock is worth 15. Why are we trading at $3? Why are we trading at $2, a fraction of where we should be trading? So I work with management. Management doesn't understand the proliferations of programs in the marketplace. Programs just sell you and short you and sell you and short you just because you're going down. They don't care if you're making money, if you're a great company, this and that. So what we do is we try to identify catalysts that are going to take a secular downtrend and create a huge inflection point. And hopefully that inflection point is going to create a short squeeze. And that's how we get the big returns, because when there is a short squeeze, when Goldman and Citadel and Renaissance are piling on the derivative shorts and the derivative shorts and the derivative shorts, if the catalyst is big enough, there's going to be a huge inflection point a la short squeeze. So if the catalyst doesn't happen, we help create the catalyst through our friendly activism. So we'll file a 13D, which is a regulatory filing when you own more than 5% of a company, and we'll state publicly to the world that this company is incredibly undervalued, it's trading at a fraction of intrinsic price, and we want to help the company enhance the shareholder value of the company. So that's what the activism that we do. And usually the managements applaud us and they want to work with us. And we're becoming quite well known in that marketplace of being friendly activists.
Thank you. Well, I've just been given the 1 minute warning, so we're going to go to the video to tell us about the future of ESG.
With Daniel. Daniel's in the back, by the way.
Every investment has an impact, and every impact has a story. Fund managers don't just tell your impact story, verify it. Imagine a hub of transparency, a network for credible impact funds. At IEL, we offer two solutions: the Impact Authenticity Score, a calculated assessment verifying the authenticity and rigor with which impact investment teams execute their strategies; the Impact Navigator, a two-sided platform for independently verified impact funds across asset classes and a searchable tool giving investors and advisors a clear, comparable way to discover credible strategies and connect with the managers behind them. Every investment has an impact. Tell your impact story through evaluation. Brought to you by the Impact Evaluation Lab.
It's such a privilege to receive insights from entrepreneurs and investors who've realized incredible success and worked at the highest levels. We look forward to hearing in coming years of your next great achievements. Please join me in a big round of applause for our amazing panel.